Hello and good evening, everyone. It's about 7 o'clock, so 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. So we'll go ahead and get started. I am Dr. Shantia Kerr Sims, and I'm here with my colleague, Dr. Lauren Hayes, and we're from the Educational Technology Program from the University of Central Missouri. And this is our third webinar for K through 12 teachers and leaders, as many have transitioned to online learning. We are so grateful to have our guest speaker, Dr. Lovejoy, and I'll turn my video on as well. We're so grateful to have our speaker, Dr. Lovejoy. She's an expert and she's going to share with us some of the things that she's learned through her experience with leadership and assessment, and is particularly relevant with what we have going on today. So I'm just going to turn it over to Dr. Lovejoy. Thank you again. We are very excited and grateful to have your expertise here today.
Well, thank you very much. I'm excited to be here and hope that we have a little bit of fun while we go through some of the resources and ideas that we use in our online learning environment. So if you haven't already, there's a link in the chat that will take you to this Nearpod. So you'll want to click on that link so you can join the presentation. You can also go to nearpod.com and enter in the code up on the top left of the screen, which is UNLXB. You'll get a lot more out of this because a lot of these slides are interactive and will help with assessment ideas and student engagement. So I'd like to start first by just using one of these tools in Nearpod, and this is a collaboration board. And so the question is, in the last week, what is one thing you've been able to celebrate? And this can be personal or professional. But yeah, just go ahead and type in something that you can celebrate from the last week. So on this collaboration board within Nearpod, you can see you just add your comments, and you can go in and you can click on the little hearts and like others' comments. This is a fun way to kind of engage class during online learning. I will be sharing a self-paced version of this Nearpod later, so if I'm going too quick, don't worry, you are going to be able to come back in here and see all of these great comments and all of these resources. So just real quick, how we're going to spend our time together. I always like to know what's coming. Is this relevant for me? So I wanted to just give you an outline. We're going to spend just a minute with some introductions. I want to get a sense of who is with us today and kind of what your background and needs are. And then talk a little bit about the mind shift that it requires to go from traditional classroom instruction to online learning. Some tips about leadership, engagement strategies for online instruction, along with assessment strategies, and then resources. I have a document I will share with everyone that links to every example and all of the resources I'll share in this presentation. So you don't need to try and write things down and take mad notes, because all of this will be provided to you. So first, we're just going to spend a second on this. You'll notice I'm going to switch kind of back and forth between here's a professional development session for educators and educational leaders, and here's an example of actual classroom instruction that you can use in an online environment. So just know I'm kind of going back and forth between the two. But this technique is called Everybody Writes. This is just a Google Doc that's embedded in the Nearpod presentation. And so I would just like you to take a minute and add your name into the name column, and then answer the two questions that are listed, which are, which online programs do you currently use to provide virtual instruction, and what has been your biggest challenge with online instruction? this is to help me kind of guide where our focus is today and just get a gauge of where you're at. So we'll go ahead and take about 60 seconds to go ahead and complete this. Okay, so we'll take about 10 more seconds, wrap up your thoughts. All right, so I'm seeing Zoom, Google Classroom, Flipgrid, Google Hangouts. Fantastic. Assessment, PD for teachers, internet. Okay. So I appreciate this feedback so I know kind of where to focus my time. I am known for building slide decks or Nearpods with an abundance of information, like 100 slides plus, and I go through it really quickly and then have links and resources in there so that people can on their own kind of investigate. But I will gear our time together towards some of these issues that you presented. I'll also be providing my contact information if you have additional questions or want to pick my brain on some of the things that we've done. So just know that. So real quick introductions, if you'll just complete this poll, just select the option that you most closely resembles your current role in education, and then make sure to hit submit. And I'm just going to go ahead, like a lot of these I'm showing you so that you're able to see the student facing or teacher facing version of this Nearpod lesson. So you can see I've shared my screen where it's not showing any names, but you're able to see what everyone has responded with in this group. And then I'm going to go ahead and unshare. So it looks like administrators, post-secondary. Okay, so thank you for your participation. I wanted to tell you a little bit about me and why I am here even talking to you about this. But my name is Sonya Lovejoy, and it's Sonya like lasagna, and I'm the Director of Curriculum Assessment and PD for a charter network in Idaho. And personally, I'm an Idaho girl. I love family. My dog Cabela, she's darling, and anything outdoors. And honestly, my passion is education. So doing things like this, if it can help one teacher that in turn helps one scholar, it is 100% worth our time. So you'll probably sense that as we have a little time together today. My background in education, I got my bachelor's at Boise State, my master's in the South at Auburn, and then my ed specialist and my PhD at Northwest Nazarene. And I have experience K-12 and post-secondary as a classroom teacher, instructional coach, a GT coordinator, administrator, adjunct professional or professor. And more important than all of these kind of wall hanging uh, pieces about myself is my biggest passion is serving scholars with excellence. And you'll hear me refer to students as scholars, and that's part of my belief that every student is a scholar and that they all deserve excellence. And mediocrity is not something that I accept in myself and those that are around me. And I do believe that education is a love affair of the heart. And if you're in this profession, it's because of something in your heart that you're doing it, and it's hard work, but that's why I'm here. So in my current role, I'm the Director of Curriculum Assessment and PD, like I said, for a charter management organization. So it's really similar to just your typical public school district, and we are free public K-12 CMO. Now, our schools are all across Idaho, and we currently have 3 brick and mortar traditional schools. We're adding 2 more, so we'll be up to 5. And they currently serve kindergarten through grade 10, and then we're adding grade 11 next year and grade 12 the following year. So our first school that's not included in that is actually Gem Prep Online, which we established in 2004. And that's a free public K-12 virtual school. And we have had amazing success, not just as a virtual school, but in the state of Idaho. And we're approached and asked, how can you serve more students? Well, having parents at home that are able to do online learning with their children, that's a limited opportunity. So we decided to give it a try with brick and mortar and try and replicate the success we found online with brick and mortar schools. And so far it's been working really well. So we have Gem Prep Online as our first school, and then we have 3 additional brick and mortars that we've opened since then. And we are currently this year, we're serving over 250 scholars across the state of Idaho. And it's been pretty amazing. I have some examples here, not to toot our horn, but to let you know that we don't just have experience with online schools, but we have success with online learning. So that's why I am here talking with you today, because we have experience bridging that gap between the traditional classroom and then online home learning, which they are 2 very different things. So the mind shift that needs to take place with online learning, I definitely work in examples because I'm a visual learner. But if you consider your traditional classroom, you have 1 instructor and 1 modality plan. You might present your lesson to the whole group, and then even if you have some choral responses or some dialogue, maybe you show some realia or a video example, and then independent work. You have 1 plan for this group of kids, right? And then you differentiate when you need or when you have the opportunity to. So consider I'm thinking more K-6, just consider 1 subject, so online ELA. You still have your 1 instructor, but you have various online access capabilities. You might have some kiddos that can't get online, and you're having to communicate with them in a different manner. You might have some with really slow internet. You have a large range of student tech skills, a multitude of modalities required, differing levels of parent support. And of course, we're not just talking about online home learning, we're talking about online home learning due to a crisis. So there is that competition with basic needs. That makes it quite different. If you consider just those 2, the traditional classroom and the online classroom, you are having to reach out in a multitude of ways that isn't required when you're in a traditional setting. So let's take that ELA example and imagine you're going to attend more than 1 subject. So let's just say ELA, math, science, and social studies. And in this graphic, you can see you still have all of those same barriers. You have 1 instructor, multiple subjects, diverse student skills by content area, various online capabilities, large range of student tech skills, and so on. Now imagine if you're a secondary scholar and you have more than 1 teacher, or you're a parent at home with more than 1 student, and you're trying to manage all of this. It becomes absolutely overwhelming. Things that were normally simple, like, hello class, they're all here, I'm going to take attendance, here's the assignment, that turns into something completely different with online instruction. So my point in going through this example is that it requires a mind shift. And one of the biggest assets that we have found is shared human capital. And so, for example, if you have a grade level team working together and kind of divvying up some of the work is definitely a fantastic option. If you think about maybe you're recording videos, maybe you're creating Nearpod lessons, whatever it may be, divide and conquer, and definitely lean on those resources, whether it be administrators, counselors, lean on one another and really determine who is responsible for what and when. Which kind of leads into leadership. And leadership typically is reserved for, oh, are you a team leader? Are you a department chair? Are you an administrator? And if you're in education, you are a leader. So this actually applies to everyone. And I would like to emphasize this quote: relationships before rigor, grace before grades, patience before programs, and love before lessons. I am definitely a high achiever and ask for a lot from our teams, but it's really important to understand that everyone is going through very different circumstances right now, and that as leaders, whether it's a leader of a classroom, leader of a school, of a department, that we need to make sure that we are considering our relationships with others and support, and having high expectations, but still remembering that there are people behind each of these data points and each of these programs. So I'm going to share part of a clip, and this one I wasn't sure where to plug it in, but this is one of our secondary teachers, and one way that our teachers are online teachers and now are new to online teachers use a lot of videos via Zoom, they use Loom, or YouTube. And this one is just showing leadership, whether it be for your classroom or otherwise, kind of sharing that message of love. So I'm going to play just a part of this so you can get the gist, but it's just pretty darling, and so I had to share.
Hey kiddos, I've been thinking about you, so I rewrote this song and I wanted to share it with you, just to let you know that I miss you and I can't wait to see you. I was scared of turning on the news. I was scared of leaving home and catching COVID-19. All of us are far away, and I don't get to see you every day.
So you get the idea, and we've actually had, I attempt to play music, so I have a soft spot for using music to reach out to others. But we have a lot of our teachers, even an 8th grade math teacher who is not a musician and has tried making some of these videos to like let his students know he's thinking of them and just try and make it fun. This example, which I won't actually go through, but this is a video recording that we posted on social media and shared digitally to help parents kind of get ready for that transition to online learning. So this is a resource that will be linked in later. But this is just really the premise of leadership, including making sure that your expectations are clear. And I'll show you some specific examples of how you can do this in the academic setting. So this is a slide deck that is shared with you, and you'll notice in the Nearpod, you should be able to manually go through different slides within this deck. So this is a live Nearpod lesson, so I'm driving it and I change your slides. But if you have a slide deck embedded in Nearpod, you're able to control yourself. So you can click through a couple of these slides, and essentially this presentation was paired with the video, and we shared it with our parents because we wanted them to know, one, like we're focused on people first, but that we are here. Like it's going to be a bumpy road for a couple weeks, for a couple months, but letting parents and teachers and scholars know that we are here 100% to support them. So the leadership side, letting folks know, like letting them see that soft side. Yes, expectations are high, but we are 100% people oriented first. Some more practical examples. Another piece is, here's an example of weekly online learning expectations. So for our schools, we have K-12 in our online school, and then our brick and mortar are all K-10. And so we use Canvas as our learning management system, or LMS, similar to Blackboard. You can create something somewhat similar in Google Classroom, but we wanted our teachers to know this is what our expectation is. So for example, we have it broken down by grade band. So in kinder, attend 2 ELA live lessons per week. And so we have live Zoom lessons with each grade level. And if kids aren't able to make those, we offer, you can watch the recorded lesson and complete this assignment, and that fulfills your attendance. But this is linked in for you to look through as well. But we wanted our teachers and our parents and our scholars to be very clear on what our expectations are. So we laid it out in documents like this. This next example was also shared with everyone, and this was to let everyone know what our grading and attendance rubric looked like. So this one is a K2 example, and I believe it has 3, 5 down below. But we had decided for kinder through 5th grade, we were really focusing on ELA and math. Then once we got to 6th grade and up, we were focused on the 4 core content areas. So you can see in the rubric, we have full points. They attend 2 live lessons a week or watch 2 recorded lessons in ELA and math, and then complete all assignments. And then over on this side, you can see, so tallies up, the total points for the week would be 24. I share this just to show it's important to let your teachers know, to let your families know and your students know this is what the expectation is, and break it down into a very simple and usable format. This last example in this section is a to-do list that one of our 4th grade teachers made for this week. And I share this one because my niece goes to one of our brick and mortar schools, and this is her teacher, who's fabulous. But she's posting this for her scholars every week. And you can see that it has the activity, it has where to find it. On the right column, it has emeralds, and these are essentially intervention groups that she's meeting with. So she had all of the scholars' names listed there. I, of course, removed them. But she goes through and she has daily what is expected. I'm a tech nerd, so I would jazz this up and add links all over the place, but that's just me. So each of our teachers have a place, whether it be on Canvas or Google Classroom or a daily email, weekly email, a clear expectation for the week and where resources can be found. So essentially with leadership, there are so many different levels, but being very first encouraging, and second, being very clear on expectations and being supportive. Living in the orange, Boise State, Idaho, so I'm very blue and orange oriented. But living in the orange here means you've got the things that really matter to you, and then you have the things that you can control. And so focus on those things that really matter that you can control. And some of those include schedules and clear communication. Engagement. This piece is fun, and I have kind of examples scattered throughout. This is an example of a guided reading response, and I tried to jump around between grade bands, but with this example, this is just one idea for student engagement. So this is a Google Doc. You could use it as just the Google Doc, or you could use it within a Nearpod, and it is a ReadWorks selection for, I think, 2nd grade. And so I just plugged it in and I click, or where you can see the read to me link, I just linked it directly to ReadWorks. So if you have younger scholars or scholars with accommodations, you can have the audio option. But here I just have the actual text, and then similar to what we did when we started together, type your full name and use a complete sentence to answer the question below. So full name, here's the question, and you can see plants also depend on sunlight to help them grow. And this is not, I wouldn't consider this formative assessment because they're able to see each other's responses. So you don't know if they're just simply retyping what someone else saw, but this does add a level of engagement and a little bit more activity and fun for online learning. In 2 slides, I know some of you said you're familiar with Flipgrid, but we're going to go into a demo Flipgrid. And you can see here when you log in, whether it be via Nearpod or just on its own, this one that I've created, your directions are to say hello and share a fun fact about yourself. So when I get to the actual slide, you're going to see a green plus sign, and that's what you'll push to record your own video. And then you'll be able to see others' responses. So this would be a great tool to use if you're wanting to keep your staff or your department or your classroom all connected. You as the leader could post a question and a video. We did it with our teachers first, and we had teachers show their home workspace and what that looked like. And then teachers turned around and did it with their scholars. So most of our teachers actually start off the day, or they post this and share it daily with their scholars, so that throughout the day, throughout the week, they can all respond and they can video respond to one another. So we're just going to do a quick demo so that you're able to see what this looks like. So you should be able to see leadership and assessment in K-12 online learning. And if you scroll down, you will see the say hello on Flipgrid. You can select that. And then you're going to be able to record your own video, or you can watch my video. And is it Vicky Hughes? I can see your image right now. Could you give me a thumbs up if you're able to get in there and see where you can record your own video and watch others?
I can see it, Sonya.
Okay, thank you. So we're gonna let's take 2 minutes, and I want you to go in, and the only video right now is me, so you can watch that, it's really short. But then I want you to record either a response to my video or your own, just to try it out. So 3 minutes, go for it. Hello, everyone. My name is Sonya Lovejoy. And we're actually going to pivot here, because if you're in Zoom and you're using your camera for Zoom, it won't let you dual use your camera to actually make a recording. So you're going to have to look at this later. I do have the link, so you'll be able to check it out. And I hope some of you will go in and respond and record, because I clearly made a fun video. I actually have mustache on in mine. So we'll come back to that. But Flipgrid is a fantastic and really creative and fun way to engage with students, whether it be over academics or just general engagement. This is another example, and I didn't have the time to go in and like make a lesson around this, but this is a virtual reality option in Nearpod. So if you grab your screen, you can actually pivot, and this is a nice river in Idaho. Fly fishing is my absolute favorite, and so I had to choose this so I could dream that I'm not locked in my house and go fishing instead. But you can grab your screen and scroll around. Virtual field trips, these are great. These examples were already embedded. You can go visit college campuses. I mean, the options are endless, but this is just one example. Another is VR with science topics, essentially. So this is the same concept, but with the human body. So again, you can grab the screen and you can move around this image so that you're able to see various pieces. You have the opportunity with this function to have a quiz, ask questions. There's a ton of things you could do with this, but these are just a couple examples of how to maintain engagement online. And then the third example is a simulation, and these are all already built into Nearpod. So go ahead and take a moment here to try and even out these weights. You can see you're able to place weights on both sides to try and figure out how to balance them out and find the equation. So take 10 seconds and play around with that, and then we'll move on. All right, assessment, which was a big piece that I heard folks were curious on how to support assessment. There is, of course, the Google Doc option. If you use it in Canvas, or I believe in Google Classroom, you can set it up so that the document will actually duplicate, so that each student is seeing their own version. They're not able to see one another's copies. This is an example of citing text evidence, which we have all of our scholars do for each lesson. This is a really basic idea. Within Nearpod, you can do the same. So this example is just a sample text where you're asking a scholar to go through and answer a question. We teach our scholars the RACE technique so that they know after they read the text, when they're answering a question, they need to restate the question, they need to answer the question, they need to cite text evidence, how they found that, and then they need to explain. So we give them this 4-square so that they're able to complete each piece, and this helps them with standardized testing and kind of leads them to defend their responses in general. So on your screen, you should see a left arrow. If you lose those directions, you can click the blue arrow on the left, and that will open and close your directions. So in this example, and it looks like it's paused here, but in this example, you've got the option on all of these Nearpods to do a reference or a kind of support in the corner. So in this one, although I've disengaged it because I have my audio blocked, I did include an audio where I read the text. So this is great. Again, if you have young scholars, if you have scholars with accommodations, you can either read the text to them, you can give them directions, you can give them a spelling test here. And there's a record feature in Nearpod so that you're able to just sit right there and record. And this is the draw it feature. So you can see at the bottom of your screen, you have a pencil, a highlighter, text, which is the capital and lowercase t, image, and eraser. So if you choose text, you're going to see a box that kind of appears out of nowhere, normally in the middle of your screen. It's never in a perfect spot, but you're able to choose that and you can click on the circle right outside. If you're not looking at the same thing as me, I'm going to sound crazy for just a minute. But once your text box appears, if you click on the blue circle, you're able to move that box wherever you would like, and you can resize it. You're then able to choose the size of your text and the color of your text, and you're able to type right in that document. You can also, let's just pull a writing tool, use a pencil. I wouldn't suggest this unless it's a young scholar or an art class, because it's really difficult to use a mouse to try and write. But you have a bunch of options where you're able to respond. And the way that this is set up as the teacher, and I'll pull over my teacher view for you to see. So this is what I'm seeing. I'm able to see each of the students in this Nearpod right now and how they're responding. You're not able to see that, so this is a really great way to use Nearpod as a formative assessment tool. Of course, you could use it as a summative as well, but you're then able to share if you wanted to. So I'll just give you an example. Let me find a really good one. I love the awaiting drawing. Okay, so this is a great tool. I love being able to see responses. Even if you're starting with college students or high school students, it does require a lot of guidance and letting them know what you as the teacher or leader, even with staff professional development, I'm telling you, let them know what you're able to see and what expectations are. Okay, we're gonna move on, but again, you're gonna have access to all of this stuff. The next resource I'm gonna share is called Kami, and this is essentially an online annotation tool. So once you log into Kami, which we'll get there in just a sec, you have the option to open a document from Google Drive, computer. You can create it in a classroom assignment, which if you don't have an LMS like Canvas or Blackboard and you use Google Classroom or R right now, I would recommend using the Create Classroom Assignment, because what that's going to do is it will create the document in Kami, and then it will open and only display for each individual student instead of it being a shared doc. So I have an example image here, and this is a math assessment for one of our classes. So when you're in Kami, you can see it's just a PDF that I had uploaded. And then on the left column, you can see all of the options. So you can do text to speech, there's a dictionary option, text box, drawing, shapes, erasers, all sorts of things. Here is an example of me completing this homework assignment. It actually took longer than it should have. But you can see that I used a bunch of these different features to go in and complete this either homework assignment, or it can be an assessment. It could be a PDF of the assessments you're already using, but a virtual way for scholars to actually show their work. And they're able to just save it and upload it. If you make it in a Google class assignment, they're able to just save it there. So we're gonna spend, let's just do 3 minutes so you can see the premise behind this activity. But this is just another shared Google Doc, and this is a scavenger hunt. And in this example, you can see there's some directions. Click the links below to answer the 3 posted questions. Make sure to add your name and complete each answer. The first person with all 3 answers correct wins. So this is an example of either assessment, also getting you familiar with Kami. So enter your name. I see some competition already. And these resources, the Why Kami and then Add Kami Google extension, those are just quick links to give you more information. That's where you'll find the answers to these questions. So the first question, what are the 3 main reasons educators and students use Kami? It's in one of those links. How do you add Kami? And then what is one way you might use Kami for online instruction? So we will just take, we'll see who can win. Can someone be done within 60 seconds? Let's try. Right, let's take 5 more seconds. All right, fabulous. We're gonna move on, but again, you'll have links to this if you feel like you want to come back and complete it. That's how I am, so I would want to. But let's see if you're able to see. This is a linked version to that math homework assignment example I just shared. So if you're able to click on the click here, you should be able to join in on that annotated example that I shared. Okay, mine took a minute to upload, but it looks like there's a couple folks in here already. So could someone either give me a thumbs up or unmute themselves and let me know if you're able to see this with the editing tools in Kami?
I don't think I can.
Okay, so mine is not showing either. Great lesson for online learning, getting set up with technology, with students and with teachers and with anyone. It takes some time. So when I demoed this earlier, I was able to display this homework assignment, and then anyone had access to annotate and edit within this document. So like someone mentioned in that scavenger hunt before, you're able to use this as a feature if you want to work together as a class and all share the same annotations, or if you want it to be individualized. So unfortunately, it's not showing up, but this is linked in that resource document, so you'll be able to come back to it. Okay, this is Time to Climb, and this is a newer feature. So I plugged in, I think, 4 random questions just so you could get the idea. But I would like you to go ahead. You'll see you can choose a character. This clearly is a little bit juvenile, but give it a go. Choose your character. Okay, so with that example, there are definitely different backgrounds and like music options and characters. I just clicked the first one. My questions were obviously last minute silly questions, but you get the gist where you can use that as either an engagement activity, a warm up, or some sort of assessment. So I think this is the last activity example I have, and this is matching pairs. There's still a bunch of other assessment ideas within Nearpod, but this gives you the general gist of it. So I've set the timer. You can set the timer for all of these, but you're going to want to make matching pairs by selecting the image of the agenda topic, so that circle with the agenda description, and then pair it with the actual language meeting that agenda topic. So when you go through, you'll notice if you pick 2 squares and they flash red and they do an X, that means those are not the correct pairs. When you get a matching pair, they will both turn green, and then it will let you know when you are done. So go ahead and take a couple seconds to give this a shot. And just so you know, on the teacher or leader version, I'm able to see the live attempts from each name, how many tries, how many they've gotten correct. So this is a great formative assessment tool as well. And you can use images, you can use text, you can do all sorts of stuff here. All right, good job. Okay, so lastly, resources. And this is the document I told you I would share. So I'm going to add this into the chat box and then also share this and then the Nearpod resources that can be shared out. But what I have in here is, of course, my name and my email. In case you have additional questions or want more resources, I have a ton of resources and had to just handpick the ones that I thought were relevant for today. I have links to the 3 different platforms that I shared, Nearpod, Flipgrid, and Kami. Then I have a link here to a self-paced Nearpod lesson. So what we participated in today was the live lesson where I guided it. I clicked next and your screen changed. There's also a self-paced version. So we use the self-paced for our scholars that aren't able to attend a live lesson. We can create one of these, and you'll see if you visit this, that you're able to go in and see the same content, but at your own speed. So even if you say, class, you each need to finish this Nearpod by the end of the week, they still have that same experience other than the person talking in the background, and they're able to submit those to you. And then I've got the Preparing for Online Learning slide deck that we created for our parents, the example online learning rubrics, the example weekly to-do list, the activities that I shared. So those are all linked in here. So other than that, that's what I have for you today. And unless you have any questions, here again is my contact information. So if you have any questions, please let me know either in the chat box. The only person I can see in my screen right now is Vicky. So if Vicky wants to raise her hand, if she has a question, I can see her. Otherwise, the rest of you will have to add it in the chat box.
And everybody is muted. So if you could type any questions in the chat box, we would appreciate it. And thank you so much, Sonya. This was a wonderful presentation, and looking forward to what questions everybody has. We are recording this and we'll have it available and share that out. So if any of you would like to share this with colleagues, you can have that recording hopefully by end of day tomorrow.